Hello, everyone. My name's Stephen Heiberger with Vedic Traditions, and for many of my students have asked if I would go through Shri Jyoti Star and speak to it a little bit, both why I use it, as well as some of the features, as well as how to make the layouts that I often use in my classes that I use for my practice. So I'd like to start with just saying that I've been using this program. I've used many programs. Shri Jyoti Star is the one that we're looking at. Shri Jyoti Star Pro 9 Pro is the version that I'm using. I've used many programs in the past. This one, though, I have used primarily for over 20 years now. So I've seen it move in all of its changes and different iterations. Andrew Foss is the creator, and I have had good luck with him changing things and shifting the software according to my teacher's needs, Heart to Foe, as well as myself. And usually, one of the reasons I really enjoy this program is because whatever it is that I think might be good for myself or my students, the developer has been very good about trying to get it done with updates and so forth. So what I'd like to say is that there are, for example, the two main pieces of software, Shri Jyoti Star, and the other competitor would be Parashara's Light. Of course, there are many other brands out there, but those are the two major ones. I've used both of them. This one, why do I prefer this one? Well, it doesn't look as good, I think. Parashara's Light, I believe, aesthetically, the way that the charts show up, there's a certain smoothness to that program that I do enjoy. But the reason why that I use Shri Jyoti Star is because it is much more of a professional program. When I say that, I don't mean Parashara's Light is not, but what I do mean to say is that there are a lot more options. There's a lot more capacity. It is more of a workhorse. On the other hand, I think it is a less attractive workhorse. The UI, the user interface, is literally from the 1980s. So as we're looking at it now here on screen, it's okay, you know, and there's a lot of options of ways you can change the look and the feel of it. And so to me, that's not a problem. And in fact, this program being much more what I'll call robust with more options, more layout, more flexibility, because I've had students, many students who were working on other programs and they couldn't do what I can do on this program to kind of match. They were trying to match what we were doing in class, you know. So anyway, you can go to his website, vedicsoftware.com, if you want to find out what the current price is and so forth like that. It's in the early 300s, somewhere in there. $300 in that $300 to $400 range. All right, so let's get started with it. So this program is laid out in different ways that I'd like to speak about, but fundamentally, let's understand something. You have different pages that you can look at. There'll be different pages that you can print. And then you're going to have your data, which is going to be stored within a database. And the program goes to that database and extracts out the files that you created. Each person that you put in, their birth data that you put in, becomes a file. Files can be put into what you might just call folders. In this context, we will call them a database. Let us first start talking about the program in terms of the way that the workspace that we're now looking at, and the look and the feel of it and what we can do with it. So one thing to understand in this program is that up here you see PGs for pages. I can click through these pages, and there are different layouts for each page. Each page has the capacity to have those layouts shifted by, in the background, you can see here, let me click this button here, okay, will hide and show a grid. It's the reason why it looks like a grid, and there's a tooltip that says show and hide the main grid. So if I click the grid on, then I can drag and drop an item wherever I want to put it. Right? So I could take this one and put it here, right? Or I could grab it and bring it back, and the one underneath usually is still there. The layout on each, so there are 36 pages in total. If I go backwards, let me go backwards. You can see if I go backwards, there's the number 36. So that's a lot of space to set up a lot of different configurations. You know, like on this first page, I have my main horoscope. I have what's called a dasha sequence, the planetary periods. I have amshas or subcharts here. The main one, a D9 or a navamsha. There's a wonderful feature here in Shri Jyoti Star where you can set up what are called all divisional charts, meaning that all I have to do is click on it. This is a quote D9 or navamsha. That would click. That's a D10 and so forth. But if I want them individual, these subcharts, which many of you are starting to do Jyotish, because I'm doing this for my level 1 and level 2 folks, and mostly. But the amshas are something that in my second year program that some of you are heading into soon, we are going to talk a lot about amshas, a lot around the subcharts or the divisional charts, right? And so you can have a page with all of these set up, the D2, the D3, the D4, and all the way up here, as many as you want, you know. Now, in saying this, again, the workspace that we're now looking at can be changed in many different ways. So let me go back over here to this page that we were looking at where the grid was on. So all I have to do is left click and then let me get out of that. Left click, there's a home button here. I'm gonna hit the home button. And there's a search feature. So if I wanted to put, let's suppose I did want to put that navamsha, then I could write NAV, right? And then it gives me choices. And I could put, oh, look, a 9, a navamsha. I can click on that, and the navamsha would come in. Now I could do that for just about anything, but if I go back here to the home button, you can see here that the main sections, okay, are charts, tables, graphs, dashas, global colors, global options, right? And some extra pieces. So these here, charts, tables, graphs, dashas, global colors, and global options are the main categories. So if I click on charts, you'll see that there's a lot underneath that. Well, there's even more. One of, I think, less attractive parts of this is the way that this is organized. Because if you don't know to click on options for selected chart, you won't see that there's all this also underneath, right? So in this program, it's good to get familiar, just go through and start clicking on things, right? So that you can see what all is there, right? Because some of these, if I go here to moon chart, well, it's just going to put in a chart, sign chart from the moon. Great thing is I can take it, you know, and make it from Mars. I could make it from Mercury. I could make it from Jupiter. Why is that important? Well, some people like to look at, for example, Jupiter Dasha to put it in the Lagna and see, oh, my Bhukti of Sun or Mercury is in the 10th from my Dasha Lord, right? But generally speaking, we have a Chandra Lagna. In other words, those of you who studied some will know that the Chandra Lagna is very important, or the Surya Lagna. And this is an easy way to do this. So this is one of, like I said, one of the many flexible points around this program. So I click on it again, I right click on it, or sorry, left click on it again. Right click will do something else. And I could exchange it out. If I said, oh, instead I want a D5 there, right? I could put that there. However, let me go back, hit the home button, and let's suppose that I wanted to put a table in there. Right? Now, there's going to be a lot of possibilities here. There's so many different options in this, right? But let's suppose I wanted to put a Shad Bala table there, right? So I would click on that, and now Shad Bala table. Oh, look what happened. The Shad Bala table come in, but it required 2 spaces. Huh, 2 spaces. What do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that there's a grid set up, and the workspace is designed around a certain format. So right now it's on a 5x3 format. So I clicked on format, I came down and I see it says 5x3. What does that mean? Well, let me go to another page actually. Give me just one sec. Let's go to this page, and this is easier to see, right? Because I can see I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 objects across, 1, 2, 3, 4 objects down. Then click on the grid, and you see the red, if you can see that, a little red grid comes up. Now, if I were to change the format into 6x4, well, now I've got more space. Because now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, I have now got 6x4 down. Okay, so then I could paint this in, and I could put yet more amshas in here. Depends upon your screen size and your screen resolution that you're using. All right, that you can put in. Well, let's see what the format goes to. Well, you could even maybe go and do even more of them. This gives you even more opportunity. I could even put in more of them, although at some point it starts to not be legible, you know. I prefer for this, for my laptop screen, the 5x4, and once I do that, they get larger and they're easier to see. The program will ship with it. We'll talk about colors and so forth, but you'll notice that I put a Rashi, a D1 chart. This is the main chart. I left it in color up here. The rest of them I put in black, right? Because for me, I prefer it that way. It ships with the what I call the Christmas tree color effect. We can talk about that, but anyway, the point is we're now looking at this in terms of it being a grid. Let me turn the grid off there. Once the grid's off, I'm not going to be able to drag and drop. If I click on something, the choices and options comes up. So let me come back to the page we were on. And so I put in this Shadbala, but it took up 2 spaces, right? So some of them need bigger spaces to be in and so forth. Now, another thing that I can do is I can right click on this, and there's another set of options that comes up. That may be more than what we can deal with in this, but you see I can change the color schemes, the global color scheme, page color scheme, and I can do different things like change the title of this particular block, this particular table that is there. Maybe we should come back to that, but the right click often is the way that, for example, if I wanted to change the color scheme for this, you can see I can now change it to what I think he calls natural. Yes, natural, and that gives the colors, you see, like that. Now, as I'm walking into this and just talking about the workspace, the flow, and how to navigate the pages and so forth, let's come back to the first page. And I want to come up here to pages, and you can see that, of course, here we have the typical file where you can open, and this is input data and so forth. Layouts and options, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. You can send this page as an image, in other words, as an email, right? Which is very handy. You just want to take a screenshot, basically, of the page and send it as an email. That's very handy. He's got data. We'll talk about databases a little bit, but anyway, there's preferences, major setups, and this kind of stuff. For the most part, I'll show you. I don't use this file, that particular pull down, as much because I use the buttons that are up here, the the links, these icon links. I use them a lot more. But there is something up here, the undo, drag, and changes to this page under edit. If you do drag things around and you don't like what you did, try using the undo, drag, changes, and so forth. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I found it not to take me back to where I was. But at least the option is there. All right, the next is pages. And as you can see, there are 36 pages, and you can see that I have named all of these different pages. Some of them are, there's some redundancies here and so forth. Some of them haven't been named. But there's the possibility of naming them. As you can see down here, you can blank the page, get rid of everything on the page. We can copy from another page. In other words, let's suppose you have a setup on page 5 and you want to put it on page 1. Well, then you go to that blank page where you want to fill it, and then I would go over to page 5, for example, click on that, and it would bring page 5 to page 1, right, and put it in again. Or I can name or rename a page like that. So that's handy because when there are a lot of pages, like for example, if I say here and I want to go to I'm teaching and I want to go to a South and North Indian chart for a group, I click on that page, and now I have the same horoscope on the left in North Indian and on the right in South Indian, like that. Or if I just don't want to go through and click all the way through my pages, I can say, oh, it'll take me back to page 1, or take me to the Vargas, right? And I say, okay, I want to see the Vargas. So again, 36 pages, and a lot that you can paint and put in and so forth. You can change everything in terms of the size of like these dashas. You can have them in 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4 box. The planetary periods, these dashas, which if I click on the LEV, that's a level button, you see the life would start, and this is the major period of Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars, etc. But I can take it down to a second level called a bhukti, and then I can take it down to a third level called a antara, you see, and then so forth, down 4th, 5th level, and I believe he even has a 6th level down, which that's a crazy, how to say, you can see the refinement of that level is so refined that you're talking about hours within a day. So most of the time I say to my students, you work down to the 3rd level, sometimes maybe the 4th level, like during a long period like Venus, 4th level down could work as well. But anyway, that's how you use it. You can take a mouse and scroll. You see, the scroll feature on a mouse will move it up and down in terms of the date, or you can move it up and down with the dates by clicking. There's a 0 button, which takes it back to the birth. There's an NW, which is now, which takes it to the present moment. Right? So if I go 0, it'll take it back to the beginning, and I can click on the left and bring it back to a dasha and a bhukti. All right. Next, what I would like to speak to is that the program is designed to be a kind of a binary file program, meaning that as you can see, there's a name here, Yogananda, in red, and then in blue over here, if I click on that, it says now San Rafael. Well, it's designed to be set up so that you can have what up above, if you can read that, it'll say primary Yogananda. Native 2, that's the now San Rafael, or a quote transit chart. So it's set up so that you can have 2 charts up that you can be working with at any time. Now, you can paint more than 2 natives on a screen. I can show you that too, but primarily it works with 2 charts, okay? So, and this little button here, this red on the top and blue on the bottom, arrows, if I click on that, it will swap the primary native with the secondary native. In other words, if I was here looking at the chart and I thought, oh, let me look at what's happening in the sky pattern today, which I can see in different ways, but let me just flip-flop. It doesn't matter what this chart is over here. Now I have the now San Rafael chart as the primary, and Yogananda's gone to the secondary in blue. Do it again, click, Yogananda, click, transit chart. Right? Now, of course, in this program, when you click on the red here or the blue and brackets come around it, that means whatever operation that you may want to do will work on that particular native. Right? So what I'd like to say to this is that you can put any chart you want here in the now San Rafael. And one thing that I like in this program, because I didn't go all the way over here, and we'll talk about this in a minute, maybe we'll do some more layouts. That would be a good thing for us to look at next. But up here at the very end, native will show you all the charts that you've worked with in that particular session. Right? So you can see that I've got quite a few charts that I was just playing with. If I click on Princess of Wales Diana, right, you might say, well, okay, you've clicked on that. Where's the chart? Well, I would have to have a page set up where there are two charts, one of the primary native on the left and then the secondary native on the right. I do have one of those pages set up. If I click backwards to page 36, you can see that over here I have Yogananda. All right, this is in red, primary native. And over here I have Princess of Wales, in blue, Princess of Wales Diana. See? Now, I've also set it up so that there's a dasha sequence. This chart, this chart, this chart, this chart are all linked together. Now, I've kind of tried to split it down the middle of the page because now I've got a smaller dasha sequence, planetary periods, for Pren, that's for princess, 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 and all of these. So that means I can have two charts working at the same time on the same screen, and I can separate their data, which is excellent. Really, really nice feature. If I want to get rid of her and I want to do a prashna, meaning a chart of the moment, I want to do a muhurta, or I want to do a transit chart, this program makes it easy. I click over here. You see on the red, what I do is I just, next to it, the date of the birth, I click on the date of the birth, and up comes the data entry field. Right? We're going to get into this and talk about the, how to put a chart in. We can go walk through it and do one ourselves. But down here at the bottom, it says OK plus transit. And if I click on that button, what it's going to do, it's going to put the chart of the moment for my location, because I've set up a now location, right? A now location means basically a chart that is for my place in terms of space and time. So let's go ahead and do that. And what happens now is that it comes up with now, because I'm in San Rafael, California, right? It comes up with the date and the time that's present, right? And now I have a transit chart, right, that I can look at and put in parallel to if I was reading Yogananda's horoscope. Right? Or if I wanted to look back in time, let's suppose I go back to 0 with his birth, and I look and I say, oh, well, what was happening in his life as I scroll through here? Right? And I go and I say, oh, well, I want to know what was happening in his moon period. Well, I have this transit chart, but it's now set for, 2022. And of course, this is 100 years, almost 100 years back. So I can always click again on the date, go in and just simply change the date. Right? And now I can bring it back. Let's take it back to, instead of 2022, let's take it back to 19. Oh, that was an 18. 1922. I'll now say OK. And now it is for January the 15th, 1922. There is an easy way to handle this that's less cumbersome, although it would require a lot more clicking for 100 years. But there's something up here in the time space change menu, which is called a show time change bar. Okay, so the time change bar is this floating widget. Okay, and I can get to that. I'm going to get out of it. I can get to it by clicking on, you see this blue button here? It says show the time change bar. So I click on that and I can put it anywhere. And what it shows, it has 1 minute ahead, 1 minute back. So as long as the brackets, okay, for the now San Rafael, if I click over here, it would change the time on this chart, the time change tool. But if I click on the blue one, which it already was before, then I can change it. So let me just go by 10 minutes, right? And you'll see up here the time will change, right? So I go by 10 minutes. Watch the ascendant, right? 7 degrees, 10 degrees, right? I can go by, or I can go now by a Navamsha, right? Ahead, right? Or a Navamsha back. Or I can go by a Rashi. So let me, in fact, align the Lagna, the ascendant, let me align it with Yogananda's horoscope, right? Because that's the way we'll want to do it. We'll want to look, if I wanted to know in 1922, right, when he was here running his, that would be in Sundasha, okay? If I wanted to know in 1922, when he was running the end of the sun period here, where, the grahas were in the horoscope, well, immediately I could bring up a transit chart, align his lagna, and then all I have to do is just look around. I can see, oh, look, Rahu and Shani were moving through his second house. Oh, he was 29 years old at this point. Oh, that means the Saturn has come back home again, right? And then I could, for example, if I wanted to know, I could go ahead by a month, right, and see what happens. How long does it take for Saturn to go from 14 degrees up to 20 degrees and actually meet up, right? I can see that it's gone retrograde. In this program, the planets that are underlined are retrograde. Now, there's something with that with Rahu Ketu, because they're always retrograde if you're using the mean node, which I highly recommend that you do. A lot of programs ship with the true node, but my teacher, his guru and guru all use the mean node, and they're way, way better astrologers than anyone I've met. And what I mean by that is that, and now I can say for myself personally that I can confirm, having taught to people through the usage of amshas and methods in the amshas, that when students have it set to mean node, it doesn't correlate in terms of the amshas the way it does. I'm sorry, I probably said that wrong. When it's set to true node, it does not correlate in the same way it does when it's set to mean node. That's been at least my personal experience. Some of you may have a different experience, but that's been my experience. Anyway, the retrograde planets are underlined. So I was saying, if we move ahead looking for Saturn, if I go by months, okay, I can keep going and keep going and keep going until Saturn turns direct, and it has gone direct over here, right? Now, of course, it's out of sync. If I wanted to sync it back up again, I would simply take it and put Leo at the top. And now I can see, oh, okay, it's at 9 degrees. It's got a ways to go before it gets to 20 degrees. And so let me click ahead by some more months. Oh, I've passed it by. Right? So now Saturn is in Virgo still. Right? Let me back that up for you guys. Right? But now I want to know, oh, let me go back by 7 days, another 7 days, another 7 days, and so forth. And that way I can zero in it. Now, there's many other ways to do this without having to do this manually, okay? But looking now, I can see it's at 20 degrees. Now this is exactly at its natal position. And now look, it was October the 27th, 2022, right, when that happened. So if I want to come back to where I was before, I want to just come back into the present time, right? I can click OK plus transit, and now it brings it back to the present moment. Right? As said, I can open this up, and I don't have to have a transit chart. I can come in here and, oh, I want to have Mahatma Gandhi in that same position. I click on his chart in the field, and in it comes. Mahatma Gandhi is there. All right, so one other thing that I want to talk about in terms of the workspace here is layouts, because the program comes with already loaded layout examples. And so you can see here standard page, circle charts, standard 2, Ashtaka Vargas, a lot of different things, compatibilities, dashas full, graphs, KP Prashna page, which I tried to do my best on that, but work in progress. Rectification pages and so forth, transits, Varshapal, and so forth. So these are all different possible layouts that you could use. I'm not sure. Let me see if I have a page that I want to sacrifice for this. Let me see here. So you can see I've got a lot of different pages, but this is my my layout. So let's go ahead and just take a page. Let's go ahead and take this one. And what I can do now is I can come here to the layouts and say, I want to put in, quote, the standard page, right? If I click on that, it will ask me and say, you already have a layout. And I can say either, well, I can say here, what I want to choose is replace the current layout with the chosen layout example. And there it is. So this is something that the developer just arranged, and you can see it is in the the colored format that I think it ships with. Myself, I don't like the colored format. I find it a little distracting. Other people find it to be helpful to their eyes. But I use it as a professional. I sit and look at the program all day long. So what I would do here is I would right click and I would go to the page color scheme. And then I can go down and there's different possibilities which you can play around with. Mono by group, mono custom, and so forth. I would simply choose black. And then when I do that, then I have this page. And now what I can do again is click on the grid button up here. Now the red grid is up. Okay, and when it's up, then I can start to drag and drop things. If I wanted to move this here, get rid of that particular chart, or if I wanted to change and make this a much longer dasha sequence, which I do have on my page, I would left click on it to get the choices and options menu up again. And then I would go to, let's see, dashas for this. Nope, it's going to be under, this is the part I find to be, here it is, dashas options right at the top. And you can see here levels 2. I wouldn't ever worry about that because you can change the level over here. But the height, okay, when I click on that, I can now click on 4 because it's 4 down. It has 4 possibilities. And I click on 4, click the check button or the done button there. And now you'll see, oh, now I've got dashas. And I find this very handy because then I can look at most of the life or the whole life of the dashas, dasha and bhukti on one page, right? Now, of course, you can fill the whole page with dashas and so forth, as usual. Now, let's suppose that I don't like that. Actually, let me go up here to the edit and see. I'll do undo, and let's see what'll happen. Aha. See, what happened there is it took it back to the page I had before. So that was good. Now I can go up to layouts again, and let's suppose I wanted to put a circular chart in here. I'm going to replace that. And now there's a circular chart with other charts and so forth, right? So whatever layout example it is, let's pick another one. Let's go for maybe the Muhurta page. And let's try that. Okay, and so now you can see there's graphs that are up here, and this is a particular setup that he does. And without getting into these, there's a lot of again, neat features in this program. All right. Now I'm going to come back up here and go undo. Now that'll take it back. Let's see if it does it again. No, only one backwards. So I have this particular page now that's going to be set up like that, which I can always change again because I've got 36 pages. All right. So I think next, let me come back to page 1. And now let's just simply talk about the simple of it, and that is, what do I do when I just want to put a chart in, right? So when the program ships to you, right? Again, the files and databases are something we need to speak about, but you could go up here and you can say open new primary native. Okay, now the same thing is done when you click on the date beside the name, if there is a name that's up. Right? It brings up this particular data entry field, right? Or data entry window. When it comes up, if I click on new chart here, so you have new chart, save chart, update, notes, events, delete, and so forth across. And then we have the name, the date, the time, the city, the country, the gender, atlas search button, very important, and then longitude and latitude and daylight savings time. This is all super important stuff. Of course, the date, time, place, as well as the atlas search and the latitude, longitude, time zone, and daylight savings. Okay, this section down here is usually automatically filled for you when you hit or walk through and hit the atlas search button. So let's go ahead and just put in a chart. And so we'll just call this example chart. I use the tab button because if I hit the tab button, it'll take me to the date, right? And now I'm just going to put in 1-15-2022. Now it automatically jumped to the time. The time, remember, now you can change the format, but typically the time is done in what you call military time. So it's, instead of saying 3:19, I would say 15:19. All right, for you Europeans, this is not a problem. Again, I hit the tab button again, and then I put in my town, right? And then California. Now, of course, I can use the pull-down menu here, right, to search for whatever country it may be. These are the country codes. All right, and you just click on one of them, right? For what we're doing, it's at the top is the states and so forth. So it's California. The male female thing here you might do for future reference. It doesn't make any difference in the short term, but some yogas, if you're doing, the program has a yoga search. Some yogas, only a couple are determined by male and female, but compatibility between two charts, you need to know who's male and who's female. In this case, it doesn't matter because it's an example chart. Now, at this point, I can hit Atlas Search and it'll fill this down here. Or I can hit the Tab button on the keyboard and it will tab. So watch what happens. Of course, let me just hit this first. Okay, and now it filled. It gave me the longitude, latitude from the Atlas. It told me the time zone, and it told me daylight savings time is not on. Right? However, if I needed to change this, I would click up in this area again, or up here, sorry, under the name, and now Atlas Search would be active. Okay, if let's go ahead and change the time zone just so you can see it. Right, so I could do it manually, and I could save it if I wanted to change the time zone. But if I hit Atlas Search, you'll see it change back to, of course, what it should be. Right? At this point, if I say OK, what'll happen is it'll come up and say, oh, do you want to save the example chart to file? Right? I can say no, and it will load the file anyway. right? If I say yes, it will save the file and then load it. Okay, so now my example chart is up, right? If I want to edit that, I simply click on the date and time up here, come back, and I could edit and say, oh, I got it wrong, right? I need to change that time, right? And I want to change it now to 21, right? Well, when I do that, don't forget to hit update, right? And now if I update it, it'll ask me, do I want to update and save? Yes, right? Now, I believe that those dialogues and so forth are up here and confirm. You can decide whether you want to confirm on update and refresh and all that kind of stuff. It's a good idea, because otherwise you may find that if you don't update, then you may have hit OK, but you forgot to update it, and the next time you come back, that little shift and change that you made won't be there. All right. So that's how that you put a chart in. How do you find your charts? Okay, let's come back over here. Well, this is a list of what is in the particular database, okay, that I'm in. Up here, my database says famous.sjc. Databases, you can have many of them. Quickly, if I go here and say open a database, I can make a new one or open a database. You can see that each one of these is a different database that I've made for certain research that I was doing, right? Each one of them would have a different set. It's kind of like folders, really, okay, in a Windows or Mac system. It's a database, but it's like a folder. It's got a lot of small files in it, right? So let me cancel out of that. And within this particular, quote, famous database, there are all these charts that are in there, right? Now, they can be sorted in different ways. Look up above. It says here alphabetical. But I can click on that, and there's a lot of ways to sort them, right? I can have alphabetical. I can have unsorted or chronological. Now locations, A group, B group. I can sort them by males, females. And then it gets into sorting them really in a kind of a research mode. I can sort them by many, many, many different features. In other words, if I decided I wanted to look at all of the people who had their moon, for example, let's go here. These are all the suns, but they had their moon, for example. I wanted to look at, I want to see everyone has a moon in Virgo, right? Well, I could click on that, and that would bring up, it would sort to only the people who had the moon in Virgo. So let's have a look at that. All right, so if I click on that, it brings up Agatha Christie. Now I click OK, and Agatha Christie comes in. And does she have the moon in Virgo? Yep, she does. Okay. Again, there's a much more robust search feature in this particular program, but I thought that I would just show you that. So let's come back. Now, so now I have Agatha Christie here. How do I get my example chart back again? Well, now let me just get out of that and go back up to the top and go to either alphabetical or chronological. If I go chronological, my example chart's at the top. I click OK. I have my example chart back again. Okay. Now, let me go back. And over here, these buttons are the ones that I use most frequently. So I can say alphabetical, that's AL. Unsorted, that tells me, unsorted actually is the one I leave it on all the time, because then I can see my last client, the client before, and it's a running chronological order of how the charts were entered, right? But if I want to go, alphabetical, well, I can take it alphabetical. Personally, I like to leave it this way, and then over here, I can simply pull the pull-down menu here, and it's already alphabetical over here on this side, right? So that's another shortcut, another easy way into it. All right. What else do I want to say about this? I want to also say that there are in here a lot of other features over here, which some of these are a little more advanced. But the one we do need to talk about is now chart, because if I go over here and I say OK plus transit, let me go to page 36. Oops, wrong way. Page 36, where I have the transit chart up. You can see now San Rafael. Right? This now San Rafael, if you want to put your location in, bring up the data entry field. Click on the list. This is a list. Right? Click on the list button and go down to the now location tags. Okay, and what happens there is that I can see I have San Rafael, Los Angeles, San Francisco. So now in my database, my client database, I have dozens of these because when I travel about and I'm doing work, I need that now location to be able to do transits, to be able to do prashnas, charts of the moment from that location. If I want to add in another one, right? So then, of course, I can click over here and say new location, right? And I could put in another one in here. And let's just put this one in and say Toronto. Right? Or I guess I should now label it. I personally have labeled mine differently, but he labeled them now. Okay, so I hit now Toronto. Don't worry about the date. I put in, again, Toronto. And then I put in Canada there. All right, click the Atlas search there and it will find this. And now what I do is I go up here and I say save the chart. And that did not work the way that I hoped it should. So let me try this again. There's a tag down here. I'm going to tag it on now, and hopefully this time it will save. And I'm not sure why it is doing that. Oh, there it is there. That was some kind of a glitch. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was trying to save in a different location. I'm going to click update. Okay, and now I have now Toronto. Now when I click OK, it will bring up Toronto. Anytime that I am looking and I go in, let me go back to unsorted. Yeah, see, it was saving them over here in this side. But let's go back to, I don't know, let's just pick another chart, John Lennon maybe. And I say OK plus transit, it'll bring up now Toronto every time. If I want to go back to where I am, now San Rafael, I would come over, I would go to the now location, pick San Rafael, pick OK, and there it is. All right, they may have been too much detail, but for those of you who are wanting to set up this binary system of having a primary native chart over here and a transit chart on the right, that's the way that is done. Okay, so next, global settings. So global settings, let's left click anywhere and it'll bring up the choices and options. Click the home button and I have down here global options. What you want to have set, at least my students, this is what I recommend to you, is that the Ayanamsha would be set on Lahiri. You can choose whatever Ayanamsha you want. You can choose a house system if you're using an unequal house system, right? So there's a lot of different Ayanamshas that are here. I use Lahiri most primarily, and I use Krishnamurti Padati on occasions for some things. But Lahiri, normally it ships with Lahiri here, okay? Already set. However, when we come down here to Rahu Ketu, you can, of course, there's going to be the choice. On this one, it just says true or mean. Right? So on that one, I would leave it to mean. You can walk through and look at these different options, these different global options. For those of you who are, again, my students and those who are going into the second year program, there are 3 different Amsha defaults, and these are global. Okay, so this is what would come up all the time. The Hora or the D2 should be set on Parashara. Again, the other ones are valid. I'm just saying these are the ones that I'm using. The default for the D11 should be set to what he called Iyer. It's not Mr. Iyer, who will be studying in level 3, his techniques. He did not make this Amsha. It's actually out of Paladipika. But there's the Parashara or the Rudramsha and then the Iyer. The one that you should have checked is the Iyer. And the same for the D16, also check it to be Iyer. Okay. Now, these particular options are available locally, okay, on the chart on the screen, but I suggest you come in and do them globally here. So again, Rahu Ketu to mean, Hora D2 to Parashara, D11 and D16 to quote Iyer setting. Okay, and so for the global options, of course, there are a lot of other pieces in there, but that I think is what you need. Okay, there. Next, I think is the global colors. So global colors, it used to be he had a different, more visual layout for this. But the global colors you can change. You can see the background I have made here is a white background with this sort of goldenish, yellowish kind of color. And I've, of course, changed the color of the font here. And the fonts also can be shifted. So there's a lot of different possibilities for it. But if you see down here, choose a color scheme for this, black, global, okay, page, color, and so forth. This button here, which if Andrew, you were watching this, I would say this one should be highlighted, edit colors and color schemes, right? If I click on that, then I come up with something that's a little more visual, right? And you can see here that you can click on any one of the planets and change their colors, right? So if I click on the moon, I could change that color, right? Now this, of course, I have mine all in black, so it doesn't really matter to me, okay? But you can change the color of any of the planets. You can change the chart background. You can change the screen background, right? And you can, of course, restore the default colors, right? So here, if I click on the white or this grayish color, you can see that I have chosen this grayish color. I could make it blue, I could make it red, but at least if you're going to be looking at a screen for a while, it should be something that's fairly neutral, whatever's easiest on your eyes. You can click, this is my chart background color, and of course you can come in, and I thought that there was a hex code, add to custom colors, no. Define custom colors, I think that you can, anyway, you can play with it. I thought that there were, codes like you can write in a code, but at least it does have the RGB here. Okay. Now I'm going to cancel out of that because I've already done that in terms of the particular colors. Up here in under format, there's also something that I think should be clicked: equalize symbol sizes and charts. Because of the way he has it set up, sometimes the font of one planet gets real big and the font of another planet gets really small, right? If you click on this button, it'll equalize all of those particular eccentricities, in my opinion. And then over here, you can choose a font, okay, for your whatever it is that you want. For me, I guess I have it set up on Tahoma, right? Regular, bold, and so forth. So you have that option to stylize the particular chart that you have. Of course, this is going to be global there as well. All right. What else now? Let's have a look at printing. You can come up to the button here that says print and simply print this page or all the pages. You could print all 36 pages. I personally don't use this feature. I recommend that you use his print design feature. I think it's better, but it's just personal preference, really. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I do print off of these pages, but I think and you can do it in mono or in color, etc. I'm going to click out of there. All right, so that can be done simply, and that'll just print the page. But make sure, guys, that it's not clicked on all pages, or all of a sudden it'll print all 36 pages, okay, that are there. All right. The design, print design button. I click on this, it takes us to a designer, okay, for print in a portrait mode as opposed to the others in landscape, okay? So this is good because, again, you can have as many pages as you want. See, there's a page button here. I only have 2 of them set up. That's the extent of my printouts. But you could have as many pages, I think, as you want in terms of doing a printout, right? So each one of these pages you can set up the same way you do the pages, the workspace pages. If I go here to 2, go to 3, if I now go up to layout examples, I pick standard, it will populate that print page, you see, with this. Now, once again, I can drag and drop. On this one, I don't think the grid has to be active. You see, I can drag and drop, or I can click on it and then decide, oh, up there, I want a D9, right? And then a D9 chart comes in, or I want dashas, or I want to get rid of this or that, just like everywhere else. You left click, right? Or you right click. Right click menu is big. I know Mac users don't have, some of you, I think it's a double tap, but some of you have had trouble accessing that. Anyway, that is the way it's done. Or if I go up here to layout examples and I was looking for amshas down the page here, or maybe dashas, full page, I'll say overwrite, and then I get a full page of dashas. If I wanted to do that, and I now will make them black, color page scheme for that, make them black. And now I've got dashas that would start at life and go, I don't know, it would go all the way up here. There's not, with this kind of setup, there's not the date of birth. I mean, there's not the age, which I find to be very, very useful. Anyway, you get my point. Okay, this would be the setup. Now, okay, that's page 3, page 2, page 1. I would hit print, and then it will ask me for my printer setup and so forth like normal. Okay. Now, when you're in here, okay, you can make as many designs as you want, right? So you can see here that I have different design like blanks, okay, that I use sometimes I move them around and print 12 lugnas, for example, right? All blank ascendants and so forth. I use these for teaching and doing different things and so forth, right? Or here I have one, Varshapala, Shripati, setup, so this is a different, completely different kind of printout and layout. But if I come back to my design 1, the first one that's there I use mainly, then I'll have this set up. Right? When I want to get out of here, I just go back to main chart, right? Click on this, and then I'm back here again, right? So the page print designer is here. All right, let me get rid of the change time tool. You can play around with these. You can go and the tooltip will tell you what they are. One of the important one is this sort of a floppy disk, and it says save your layouts and options. I do recommend you click on that button after you've done any changes. Click on that button to ensure that the options and layouts are saved, okay? These various options that are here, for example, if I want to have on screen, okay, an option here for different charts. Let me change this over here. Give me just 1 second, because it's on now. Okay, let me put it on alphabetical. Okay, plus transit. And now if I click this button here, show the list of natives, I can move it around, you see, and I can see that, oh, Abraham Lincoln, I can click on that, and now it'll put Abraham Lincoln, sorry, move that out of the way, over here in this one. If I click on the red, make brackets around it, I can click and I can put Agatha Christie in there, right? Or Alan Shearer or Albert Einstein, you see? Now it's doing it for both sides. I'm not sure exactly why. Oh, I see here, because it's set up for native 2. Okay, load native as primary. Okay, so now if I do it, all right, and come down here to Bill Clinton, all right, then I have it. I don't know why it's done this now, but for some reason, let me try to get that back. Huh. That was a glitch, okay? That was a little buggy from that button. So what's happened now is I've got the same native on the left I do on the right. How do I solve that problem? Well, I right-click on it. For any time, you can always change a chart who the native is. I right-click, and I come down in here, and it says select native for this. And I can come down and pick San Rafael again, and now it's back to being, of course, I could have come up to this menu and just gone through, you know, the back end, but the right-click was an easy way to do that. All right, so the layouts on these pages, some of you, the whole actually reason that I got into doing this was I wanted to, well, walk through it with you guys a little bit. For whoever's out there watching this, review the program a little bit and say it's an excellent program. But also, for my students, I will have a file that will mirror many of these layouts pages that myself and my assistant have put together. And that file will be downloadable within your within the website portal, okay, in the LMS and the learning management system. So that's a file just like any other file, but you're going to need to know how to load it so that it will load up these layouts, okay? So what are the layouts? Well, what you see on screen, like the first page looks like that. Second page looks like this. See, these are not charts. These are not files of people. These are the way that the program interfaces, okay, in terms of its visuals. All right, so what do we do? Well, just like when I hit this button over here and it says save the layouts and options, well, when I go to File and I take my cursor down to Layout and Layout Examples Advanced, I can go over here and say I can open or I can save my layout. So that was the same thing as the button over here in terms of save, but now what I'm going to say open layouts file, right? Save your current layout, and I'm going to say yes. And now it brings me to, in my documents, the Shri Jyoti Star folder, and within it, I've got a bunch of different layouts files, right? The one you're going to be looking for is the SJS, Shri Jyoti Star Layout Vedic Traditions, okay? So I click on that one, and now it's going to load that. All right, and now it loaded it. It looks a little bit different because there's no Ganesha up here, I can see, right? That's something that could be added there. And as I walk through it, it should look similar, although it's laid out in a little bit of a different way than mine. Now you can see here I've got now 3 charts up there. You could change the native and have, you know, a husband and a wife and a child, all 3 up at the same time, for example, right? And you can see that as I walk through them, this would be, I think, a rectification page that is there, and a full dasha page. There's a neat feature in here. You can put this planetarium thing here. At least you can get a little bit of an idea of where the planets are in the nakshatras. Okay, so that's a nice little piece there. And so there are, again, many different options in this program. Here's another one. This one is Panchang transits and retrogressions. So you can see the retrogressions of the various planets that are happening, when they're going to happen, and the duration and so forth. So now if I go ahead, of course, there's going to be blank pages, right? And so these pages can be painted. So when you get the program, it will be blank. So you will either want to, let me come back to a blank page real quick. You will either want to use the the layout examples, right? And fill it in with a standard page 2, for example, which will fill it in, something you can start work with. Or, as I'm saying, you will want to download that layouts file, right? And once let's suppose you save it to your desktop, right? Then go drag and drop it into Documents, Shri Jyoti Star, right? And you can navigate to it even from your desktop, okay? But I would suggest that you go ahead. I'm going to go down here to this Advanced, Open Layouts. And of course, I could navigate to my desktop if that's where the file was, right? But this file here, Shri Jyoti Star Layout, Vedic Traditions, you drag and drop it in there, go in, open it up, and so forth. Now, my assistant, Deva Madhu, was kind enough to make up a PDF, a little document, okay, so that you have this in a written format, okay? So there it is. This will also be there for download with the layout file. Okay, so there he wrote out the steps that you take, okay, to do it, as well as the steps you would take to open or make different databases, okay, within Shri Jyoti Star. And so that particular file will also be there for you. Good. So, and now let me come back. I'll come back up here to page 1. And we're back to the beginning again. There are a lot of advanced features in this program that I love. And one of them has to do with up here, what's called special and reports. But the special underneath classical yogas and time search, this program is stunning in this way for research, for my purposes anyway. So for example, this is a South Indian style chart. If in each one of them, I could put it there and it gives you a tooltip and says Aries, Taurus, Gemini, if you're not used to the South Indian style. Well, let's suppose that I wanted to take Saturn, okay, and drag and drop it over here into Capricorn. Right? And let me take Jupiter and drag it, drop over here into Capricorn. If I wanted to know, all right, when is Saturn and Jupiter going to be in Capricorn? Then I could come here and say, oh, or I want to know when Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in Capricorn again, right? So they were, I know, hopefully you might have known that Saturn and Jupiter were in Capricorn off and on, or just very recently. But if I go forward in time, I can click the forward button and I can say search time. I can search a database and see something else, but let me search time and watch what happens. Look, it's checking the time now, okay? And it checked ahead, zoom, it's not until 2080, okay? That Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in Capricorn together again. And it will give you all the dates that Saturn and Jupiter are together in Capricorn. If I click on one of them, right, it fills in the rest of the chart for me and even tells me all of the degrees. Right? I could even take that and import that chart, okay, into, let me come back to page, or I guess in this one, it'll be the next page over. And over here, this shows me, okay, in 2080, when Saturn and Jupiter first come together again, right? Very powerful tool, right? So let me come back to it again. It's under Classical Yogas and Time Search, right? But let's suppose that I could do this in any way, shape, or form. Let me go for Rahu in Gemini, right? And let me go back in time, right? And I'm going to search time. And let me see when Rahu was in Gemini. Right? Oh, well, here it was in 2020. Oh, really? Yeah, that was, here from August 25th up until September of 2020, right? Rahu was in Gemini, right? So that's very powerful, right? But I could also search and say, who do I know who in my database has Rahu in Gemini? You search the database. Immediately I get all these people. Now what I'm going to say is I'm going to say make a B group, okay, because you can tag them, okay, and make them into groups. I'm going to say make a B group, okay, and I'm going to say yes. And now when I asked him, and he was supposed to put a check mark there or something, but anyway, when it says make B group from the list, after that actually is done, I'm going to click out of here, and I'm going to find that when I open up the entry data field, all these people you see are now in the quote B group, right? So if I click on Charlie Chaplin, does he have Rahu in Gemini? Yes, he does, right? All these people in that group now, does Marilyn Monroe, Rahu in Gemini. There it is, Rahu in Gemini, etc. Right? So again, over here you can have A tags, B tags, of course, linked. You can link two charts together, again, unsorted or alphabetical. All right. So this special up here, classical yogas and time search, that's very, very powerful. I suggest you play with it. I loved it the first time I played with it. And then this one, custom yogas and create. This is professional grade. It's going to be better organized on my screen. There's some of the visuals that are poor, and he's been working on other upgrades. I think, in fact, I need probably to upgrade or update mine because he was going to fix some of the stuff. But this thing is super powerful to be able to set up different search features so that you can search charts. I won't go into it, but it is very, very in detailed, right? So I can set up and make a new, and I can make different operations and say, when the ascendant is in Aries, right? Plus something else, the ascendant is in Aries, and then I have whatever, the sun is in, not in signs, but let's go in houses from B, and the sun is in the first house, and I want it to be just in any condition, right? So the ascendant is Aries and sun is in the first house. And so this now makes a rule, right? And then I can search my database, and nope. And turns out that in the small database that I'm using, no one has that, okay? But in a bigger database, you would end up with only those people, right? Very powerful tool for searching charts and so forth. Now, there's a lot of other things in here I'm not going to go into, but under reports, very importantly, you have an ephemeris, you have rising times. I could pick the rising times for my location and find out when does Taurus rise, Gemini, cut and paste this. I use this whenever I'm teaching Prashna to people so that you can have something in your hand. Nowadays, everyone seems to have a telephone instead. But the ephemeris part as well, that you can go for and make an ephemeris if you don't click on this. And nowadays, most of you don't really need an ephemeris because you have your programs that you're using. But the Panchang transits, this particular thing is very, very useful for those of you who do Muhurta, for those of you who are interested in, everything that has to do with Panchanga Jyotisha. This particular section, again, is very powerful for printouts, etc. All right, I think that that will have to do for this time around. So again, if you're in my program, especially if you're in the level 1 course, we will be getting together some people to buy this program. I don't get anything from this, from doing a video or from the software itself. I have nothing to do with any of that. I'm just doing this as a service to you guys. So good luck with it. Yeah, I think it's a great program. Again, there are many programs out there, but as a paid program, I think this one is one of the best, if not the best. Okay, thank you so much, and we will see you in class or some other time. Okay, thanks. Bye.